You know, I've been here I don't know how many times now, Sam, and the one thing that I can honestly say about giant tortoises, no matter how many times you've seen them, every time you see them, it's like the first time.
Yeah, it's true. It's the same thing for me. I walk out here and I'm still in amazement. I'm still just in awe of who they are and what they are, and you know, just all the information we know about them, how long they live. And you know, they just have a behavior and intelligence that we're not familiar with.
Our animal mission is simple: education in action, conservation in action. This is Kamp Kenan.
That's one thing that excites me about reptiles, is everyone tries to judge reptiles by our intelligence.
Yes.
And they don't need to be like us. You know, they don't need to do calculus.
Right.
They don't need to fly planes. They need to be as smart as they can be to survive the eons that they have. And the one thing that always strikes me when I'm looking at giant tortoises, and of course we're here with Sam Piscucci of Florida Iguana and Tortoise, and this is HMS. And I was just going to say, I love looking at their front legs.
Massive.
So massive.
Right.
I mean, they are just truly giants. They're leftovers from an age that, you know, humans only dreamed of. And I get very existential when I come over here, man.
Right.
But you know, there's so much to talk about with this guy.
You know, a lot of history there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, 84 years old, but you're just thrilled he's still with us.
Yeah, absolutely, because it was about 2 years ago when we almost lost him. He was about as near death. I mean, he was knocking on the pearly shells of heaven there to you know, to come as far as that he has come is just amazing. You know, I don't know how much of the history, but there was a time when 2 years ago when this tortoise was so sick, we used to measure how he was doing actually by the size of the blood puddle that would drip out of his mouth.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we used to say, because it was at one time it was about an 8-inch puddle, and a 12-inch puddle of mucus. He would just lay there, and this goo would just come out every day. So we used to measure how he's doing. So he's a lot better. It's only a 4-inch puddle of blood this morning at his.
I didn't realize it was that bad.
Yeah, that bad. When I got him, he was completely incapacitated. You pick his head up and his head would just roll around and his legs would just flop around, and you know, he was just as dead as the tortoise could really be. And you know, actually they had told me 3 times really, you've got to put this animal to sleep. You know, put him to sleep for me was difficult. I remember the first time that they told me, and they said put him to sleep. I actually cried. I mean, how was I going to do this? But I knew they were right. So I went inside. I talked to my wife. Well, my wife wasn't having any of that. Laura was always, you know, very supportive and everything. So we brought him home, and you saw in the original film, he lived in that little hut back there.
Right.
So, you know, what we did, you know, he had feeding tubes. He had a tube in here for fluids. You can still see there's a hole here in the back. What they did, that was they drilled a hole in his shell, and they put a catheter in his lung to deliver the medication directly to lung. He had a Listeria fungal infection, which basically at the time was really thought incurable. I mean, there's still very, very tough infections. But he pulled through with everything that we had done. You know, we just stayed with it. You know, it was a lot of dedication. It was a lot of dedication.
Well, you know, guys, you've been following along the progress of Lumpy, and as soon as I noticed something was wrong with Lumpy, this was the first man I called. Sam, in addition to being just I dare not say hobbyist, but a professional with the husbandry of these animals, he's also taken a very keen interest into their medical husbandry.
Yeah.
What to do when these animals get sick. And Dr. Funk was someone who was a mentor to you in that regard,
that's true. Yeah, 30 years ago.
Okay.
Dr. Funk would come out here, and he would come over every month, and we would sit here in my lab, and you know, we did a lot of work on the tortoises. At the time, we were creating baselines for the tortoises, so base bloodlines. We didn't have any idea what what the normal chemistry, what their blood was supposed to be like, what was the calcium supposed to be like, what is a normal, was it seasonal? Did the red blood cells and the white blood cells go up and down at different times? So what we did was we took baselines, and then we established, because I had quite a collection, we established what we thought was normal baselines, and that helped us as we went through and tried to treat the animals, that we realized what was wrong with them and not wrong with them. But it's just one of the things that we did, and Funk was a mentor to me. And in this particular tortoise, Dr. Bader was involved also in his care. Was just a tremendous support that Dr. Funk and Dr. Bader gave me with bringing him home and getting him to survive. So a long time went by. I don't think he moved for 3 months. I don't think he moved for 3 months. You remember the time that you were here, he didn't move at all.
Right.
Yeah.
He was just in that shed.
Yeah. After about 3 months, he started to move. After about 4 or 5 months, we started seeing stool. And we had a feeding tube that went in through his neck, just like Lumpy. Just a bigger tube. And we had to go out there with tremendous dedication. My wife, Laura, supported me. I mean, it's exhausting to care for an animal like this. You've had that experience with Lumpy. You can't miss any opportunity. You've got to be out there 2 or 3 times a day. You got to be giving them fluid. You've got to be giving them their medications and everything. And then
all while trying to keep this going.
All while trying to keep this.
Not easy.
And so this was, we were out of the book on this animal because the medications and the drugs that we were using weren't working. He just continued to crash. So, with Mater and I, we put together a little bit different, a little bit change of the therapy, and it proved priceless. One of the things I mentioned in the other video was he was bleeding, and there's I'm going to call it a secret Chinese herb, because it wasn't secret. It was developed by the Chinese for their soldiers. When they got shot, they would take this pill and it would stop internal bleeding. And it's world renowned how well it works. It really is. And that was one of the drugs, an herb that we gave him that actually stopped him from bleeding like that.
Well, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Do you know what that herb was called?
No, I don't remember what the herb is called.
Interesting.
Yeah. That's incredible. And here's the thing that I am always fascinated with. You and I are very focused in on chelonians, turtles and tortoises, and of course cyclura and other lizards. But these vets, they have to know different physiologies, different body types. A medical doctor has to learn about the human body.
Yeah.
And just our bodies, just between Sam and myself, certain medications will work on me that may not work on Sam. And
exactly.
There's a lot of variables between human to human. Imagine what the variables are when trying to guess species to species, or
and subspecies.
Exactly. It's just really incredible, and that's why guys like Dr. Funk and Dr. Mater and the gentleman who helped me out too, Dr. Dillum. These guys are an invaluable resource. So if you can find a good vet, it's key to long-term success with your animals. And the other thing that you really taught me a lot insofar as how to really take the husbandry to the next level. And one of the first things he made me do upon becoming friends, he's like, you gotta get a microscope. I'll teach you how to look at the poop. And that's exactly what happened. I got a microscope, and it's true. It just brings things to another level, another dimension.
Level of understanding of what you're seeing.
Because what I like about Sam is he's become something of a tortoise sleuth. If your animal's sick, you have to become a detective. What happened? What's causing this?
Right.
So the first thing you taught me was what? Look for asymmetricalities, any kind of physical things like that.
Right.
So
it's all in the physical examination. Sometimes you have to spend the time to look that animal over in a lot of different ways. So we do a physical exam. We look inside the mouth. A lot of people don't look inside the mouth when a tortoise is sick, and a lot of times you can find ulcers and different things that are going on inside there, which help a lot.
Which Lumpy had, coincidentally, he had a little stomatitis.
Yeah, the stomatitis.
Mouth rot.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just interesting. So I'm happy that we're over here talking to Sam, and what's cool, Tom, is this is a happy story because he was near death. So many times I give you guys the truth on my channel. Sometimes the animals don't make it, and to be honest, a lot of times they don't, do they?
It depends really when you catch it. You know, I think the part of that goes into the care and the husbandry that you have. And it's not just about feeding and everything. I think it's in protocols like weighing and taking your weights, especially when you have a large collection. So you got to be able to get there fast. So if you're taking your measurements and you're taking your weights and you have a person that picks them up every so often and looks in their eyes really, really close, then you have a much better chance. But once they get really sick and they get behind the 8 ball, they're tough to turn around. You know, definitely. you can lose a lot of animals and everything. Well, and it's just like you said, you've got to know why. I mean, we have so many different reasons we lose them. You know, you can lose them for respiratory infections, you can lose them for parasites and stuff like that. But you got to have the whole picture, because sometimes you can have respiratory infections because parasites have dragged their immune system down.
Gotcha. So it's a secondary infection.
Yeah, you can keep treating respiratory all you want. If that tortoise doesn't have a healthy system, it's just going to keep getting sick.
Gotcha. I mean, there's so much to learn. Tom, you have a question?
Well, yeah, I was going to say, you know, you've been through a lot with a lot of different animals.
Yes.
This is a pretty extraordinary circumstance.
Yes.
Did you learn anything that surprised you? Like, what came out of this? Did you guys learn anything that you didn't realize about them?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing that I realized was, for how dead he really was, that he actually could survive. You know, for me, he was one of those cases where I really didn't think he was going to make it. I mean, you just can't have a tortoise that bleeds for 2 months with blood dripping out of his mouth and really think that that tortoise is going to survive. It's amazing what he went through. And then I guess the other thing that I learned is, you know, there's a lot of advancements in reptile medication. The folks up there at in Gainesville, University of Florida, you know, had a lot of technology, drilling a hole through his shell, going into his lung with a catheter. You know, we drilled a hole into his plastron where we would put just fluids. And so he was a very difficult case. He was a difficult case because we couldn't figure out for the longest time what was really wrong with him. And it was only when we got inside that lung and we were finally able to get a culture directly inside that lung that we actually figured out that's what he had. Because a lot of times when you do these cultures and everything, there's a lot of contamination. You can put a culture in your mouth, you'd be surprised what you get out.
Right.
The same thing that happens with him. You might get Klebsiella, but it doesn't mean he really has a Klebsiella infection, because Klebsiella is all over the place.
And when you found that fungus, it led you to figure out, how did that fungus come to be in the lungs, and what was the
you know, I did a lot of research. If you think back, I was concerned because I did exactly what we're talking about. I went and I cultured different things around the farm and everything, and the place that I really found most of that fungus was in the hay. So I was really off on a chase that I thought that the food supply was contaminated somehow. And I don't mean contaminated like you eat it and you die. I mean, it had higher levels of fungal elements than it was really supposed to have. But, you know, I chased that down and I worked that down. And, you know, in the end, he's an individual that immune system ran down for some reason, and he got sick. Because all of the other tortoises didn't get sick. I've never seen another one of those infections.
Gotcha.
And he was in a pen with 8 other animals. But, you know, in the end, you know, different things happen. We talked about that. They're one of the longest lived species. Actually, the longest lived animal in the world is a Galapagos tortoise. But that doesn't mean that they don't get sick, and that doesn't mean that they don't die.
So, you know, what's his age, and having gone through this, what age do you think he can reach now?
Well, I have no reason to think that he wouldn't live a full life. He was sick when he was 82, and he's 84 now.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, it's just tremendous work, buddy. It's always good to have a happy story to share with everybody out there, and it's even more fun to come hang out with you. And we're going to do a few more videos from Sam's place, because there are so many animals to highlight and talk about, and Sam's a wealth of information. And if I had my way, I don't know, maybe Sam and I can get closer in the future. That would be nice too.
That would be great.
You know, the other thing I want to impress upon you folks is to check out Florida Iguana and Tortoise Breeders online. You can find them on Instagram. You can find them on your website. So there it is right there. Go check it out, because Sam's always putting really cool little videos out to help you help your animals and have them live a healthy life, just like this guy here who's having trouble getting to his food. He keeps pushing the dish away, which is great for exercise.
Yeah, right.
It's like a carrot on a stick.
Yeah.
Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notifications bell, and head on over to patreon.com/Kamp Kenan, where you'll see some exclusive content not found anywhere else. Thanks, Sam. Good seeing you, pal.
Take care, Ken.
All right, man.